Way back in 2005, two brothers set off on a road trip that would save the world and change television.
Ernie and Bert?
No. For 15 seasons and 327 episodes, Supernatural took audiences on a wild ride of family, fate, and faith with a rocking soundtrack and a seriously cool car.
But that was then, Bobo, and this is now. And yes, the show has quote-unquote ended, but we're not quite done with the journey.
No, we're not.
And that's why we're watching it all over again, or for Rob and me, for the first time,
That's right.
diving deep into every episode of Supernatural with the fine folks who made it. And we're taking you along for the ride.
Whether you like it or not. I'm Rob Benedict. I played Chuck Shirley, a.k.a. God.
Spoiler!
Yeah, it is a bit of a spoiler, but hey, spoilers are fair game here.
Fine. And I'm Richard Spade Jr., and I played the Trickster, also known as the Archangel Gabriel, and I did a little bit of Loki work in there.
Okay, you know what? We're running out of time.
Okay, well, we'll be talking about the entire series, so whatever we say, accept it. You've been warned.
So buckle up and settle in.
Because this, my friend, is Supernatural, then and now.
Hey everybody, I'm Rob Benedict.
I'm Richard Spade.
And we're here to talk to you about episode 11 of season 1.
Which is 111. I mean, if you look at the numbers, it's episode 11, season 1, 111.
That's right.
Yeah.
I just had the thought that it's a shame that they didn't do like 70 episodes a season, that we would have had season 6, episode 66.
Oh, man.
That
They
would've been
missed the
pretty
trick.
cool. Yeah.
Of course, the crew would have died, but...
But this episode is called Scarecrow. And it's freaking scary.
It's scary, man. Real scary. We're going to get into all that. We also have some great guests, Rob.
Great guests. Recurring characters.
I know. Like, this is the beginning of us bringing back our phase, your phase. We got Jerry Wanek, production designer, executive producer, and Bob Singer, the heavy
executive
hitter.
producer, showrunner, Bob Singer.
Yeah, man.
And these are great.
Directed more episodes than anybody of Supernatural.
That's right.
That's right.
But first,
Yep.
Scarecrow.
Scarecrow.
Okay, so Sam and Dean get a call from Dad.
Hello, Dad?
Which is crazy. I mean, it's a call from Dad. They've been looking for Dad for 11 episodes now.
We've been looking for you for 11
You
episodes.
slap your face. And that mic's going to go flying across the room, and no one's going to know what happened, and I'll know that I
It's your
slapped your
mic,
face.
though.
They get a call from Dad, and it's Dad. And Sam's talking, and Dean's going, Sam, give me the phone. Give me the phone. That's an intense scene. And
Yeah.
Sam's going, no, Dad, I'm not going to do what you say to do.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Bad son.
Well, no, it was emotional son. Sam's emotional and tore my heart apart. And Dean's like, let me talk to him. And then Dean does it. Dean's just like the good soldier. Anyway, I digress.
None of that is in our summary.
No,
by the way.
that's
Rob's,
just me.
Rob's vamping.
Yeah, I just, look, I'm watching the show and I'm becoming a fan of the show.
I can
Is that
tell.
so wrong?
No.
All right. So Dad, he basically, in the phone call, he says he doesn't want to be found, and he sends them on a ghost hunting job.
Right.
So they end up headed to Burkittsville, Indiana. Before they arrive, the boys have an argument, and Sam heads to California to try to find Dad.
Dean doesn't. Dean goes on to Burkittsville.
That's right. Dean arrives in town alone and starts to investigate missing couples. Meanwhile, Sam is stranded at a bus stop on his way to California and meets Meg. And I'm going, Meg? Is this Meg? Turns out, yeah, it's Meg. She's also making her way to California.
The character's last name was also Meg?
Mm-hmm. Meg. You didn't know that?
Huh.
In town, Dean zeroes in on a Scandinavian pagan god, a Vanir, manifested as a scarecrow the local people are sacrificing travelers to.
Note to self, don't go to Burkittsville.
Dean and a local girl, Emily, get captured and are to be sacrificed, but Sam arrives just in time to save them.
Thank God, otherwise the series should be 11 episodes long.
That's right. We would never have gotten to 666. Together, they destroy the first tree, the source of the Scarecrow/Vanir that dates back to the original immigrant settlers of the town. Emily leaves town. She's done. She's out of there. Because the people of the town really turned their backs on poor Emily.
Yeah, well, they're going to sacrifice her, and then they expect her to go, okay,
yeah,
I
no
forgive
problem.
you.
Yeah.
You know.
Because she was one of them. She was,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like this crazy cult. Sam pledges to Dean that they'll stay together. Later that night, we see Meg murder someone who picked her up hitchhiking.
Oh, my gosh.
She slashes his throat and fills a silver goblet with blood.
Silver goblet? Wait, no, I mean blood.
Is that silver? She recites an incantation to speak with an unknown demon she calls Father. I'm going, this is Meg. This is crazy. I was going, no, wait, what? No.
You know, you talked about something in the summary that leaves a lot of questions. They talk about destroying the first tree. They don't go near the first shrub. You know what I'm saying?
Wait.
Surely that means that this critter could come back.
Wait, they never touch but they burn it, don't they?
the tree.
Yeah.
Not the shrub.
So no one's ever talked about the shrub.
Nobody's talking about the first shrub.
What you're telling me is we got to be worried about the first shrub.
I'm saying there could be a smaller scarecrow out there wreaking havoc on smaller couples.
Okay, great. This is why you weren't in the writer's room. Well, what you think, Rich?
I thought it was great. This one gets a full bushy beard from Rich Spate Jr. I loved the episode. It was scary as hell. Again, a Kim Manners directed masterpiece, which I didn't even realize. I watched it and I was like, damn, this is good. Went back. It's Kim Manners. It's so scary. I thought the script was great. I thought the through line of the boys' fight was great and well done. And then the boys' apology was really heartfelt and genuine. Yeah. And I thought it was great. And Nicki Aycox as Meg, fantastic.
So perfect.
You know, great actress in everything she does and just nails this role. You don't see the turn coming at all.
You don't? I literally was shouting at my TV. I was like, no, what? You really don't see it coming.
No.
And it's our first hint at like a big bad.
Yeah.
You know, it's our first hint also that we're dealing with demons. And
right, like a bad character, bad guy, so to speak, that's going to go beyond just one episode.
That's right. That's right. And that's what makes them a big bad. My notes to myself, I don't know if you want to keep doing this, but this is notes I was making myself.
And now, Rob Benedict's notes to himself. Notes to himself. Okay. That's right.
Sam sleeping with a t-shirt on, please.
Well, how should he sleep?
With it shirtless. He's mother effing Sam Winchester, man. I want to see chest.
Okay, you heard it. You heard it from Robin. To take off the shirt, Sammy.
Jensen climbing the ladder to whisper in the
wearing pants.
No,
is that annoying?
No, going up the ladder to talk to the Scarecrow.
Right,
that was kind of sexy. Him and the Scarecrow.
Again,
I don't know. I put Jensen with Scarecrow, sexy.
Jensen with Scarecrow, sexy. So Robbie has a fetish seeing some of his friends get with inanimate objects.
I don't know why it moved me. My third point is
which part of you?
Look at that one. What does that say? My note.
Is that Meg?
That's right.
Interestingly, for people who love behind the scenes details, her full name is Margaret. But they shortened it to Meg.
I mentioned this later in the podcast, but there's a great Steadicam shot of Dean cocking a gun that I really loved. And the last thing I wrote in my notes is family business, bitch. I don't know why I wrote that.
I don't know.
I don't know what was happening, but I think they're going to get that Scarecrow, man.
Oh, man.
Because they're together now. They made up and they're brothers. But anyway, I loved it. I thought the Scarecrow was super scary. It gets a full beard from me.
Yeah, man.
I loved Meg and I love the the relationship between the boys.
Oh, the relationship was great.
Yeah. So our guests today,
Bob Singer
and Jerry Wanek.
Yes, man, we love these guys.
Yeah,
they've been on the show before. You people, you clamored for more Bob and Jerry, and we thought we'd bring them together. And interestingly, since COVID, they haven't seen each other. So it's a nice sort of old home week for these guys to catch up and to talk a little classic television with us.
Yeah, and Bob Singer, we said this before, but his TV credits date back to 1973. Produced Cujo, for F's sake. TV credits: Time Cop, Lois and Clark. The Midnight Caller.
Man.
He really is a legend of the business. And Jerry Wanek, like we said.
Dark Angel, Andromeda Strain. And now he's the production designer on a brand new show. Well, I guess it's season 3, but he's new to the show. Motherland Fort Salem. A show, the producing director of this show is Amanda Tapping, who is an actress on Supernatural in its later years, and also a heck of a director. And she is the producing director of this show, and now Jerry's on the show, so check out Motherland Fort Salem.
There you go. All right. Without further ado,
Jerry Wanek and Bob Singer. This is, look, right now, I mean, we're recording this. I'm so glad because this is a Hollywood moment. We're having a Hollywood moment right here on the podcast.
That's right.
You know why? Because we have returning guests to this podcast. We have Jerry Wanek. Mm-hmm. We have Bob Singer. Yeah. We have two of the biggest bigwigs in the Supernatural universe together here.
Yeah, it's a comet.
Yeah, it really is. It's a fireball. Welcome back to the podcast,
Don't
gentlemen.
look up. Don't look up.
Welcome back to you both.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I want to get into it.
Just do.
We're talking about this episode, Scarecrow, which I really enjoyed.
I thought it was freaking great.
Yeah, and there's a lot going on that we really hadn't seen before. I feel like the show took a step forward. Is your memory of it the same, that in this episode we kind of took a step forward in the way the story was being told?
Well, it's got to be in the top 2 or 3 scariest episodes of the season. We had the right director for the job in Kim. It just came together great. And the Scarecrow was really funny. And the story was solid of this classic horror stories. So hats off to Jerry. I remember I wasn't up there at the time, but I remember there was some, where the hell are we going to shoot this town? And I think Jerry can speak to what he came up with, but it worked great.
That was throughout actually the 15 years we had a hard time because we were all supposed to be in small town USA. And, those just don't exist anymore. And we had already shot a number of times in Fort Langley and other places. And there was this museum in Burnaby. But, Kim, who embraces like anything, said, yeah, let's, and one thing, he could control it. He also knew his lensing and stuff like that and how to make it not look like a miniature or a museum type piece. It was really because it was too small. A lot depended on what your scene was because you couldn't have traffic crossing at the same time because the street wasn't wide enough. I mean, Bob did a great job with it for the final with the pie eating contest or, the fair. And, it works great for that because all the buildings are nicely painted and it's a very attractive set, but it is smaller scale. And again, I love Phil and John to death, but they were more particular about things than most directors as far as getting out there and taking a chance.
But Kim warmed to the idea right out of the gate?
He did. Yep, he did. And, I just watched like the opening and he did this wonderful crane move, this 360 around to get them coming out of that store. And, that was just what he liked to do. I mean, he would look at it and he would go, yeah, well, some episodes, the story just tells itself and others, you just got to pull out a lot of tricks. And through all his years on every show you can imagine, he had a lot of tricks.
Yeah, there are a lot of epic shots in this one. And maybe that was one of the reasons I felt like it took a step forward. Like there's a shot where a Steadicam comes up and frames Jensen and he cocks the shotgun.
Right.
And it's just kind of an iconic looking shot. And all the shots of the people running from the monster and
Well, there's also that sequence where everybody's got an umbrella. The
Right.
town fathers and mothers are sort of gathered in that coven sort of setting outside in the rain, and he just swings the lens from person to person and then booms up and over the umbrellas as the rain is falling down. That's really cool, really cinematic stuff.
He actually stole that one from Hitchcock.
Yeah.
Foreign Correspondent, but,
He did it well. He stole it well.
it was in the 40s and it was this iconic shot. But, we all steal.
Yeah, sure.
Glenn Fry said to me, this was about music, but it's certainly true in film. He said, amateurs borrow, pros steal.
And art directors pay homage.
There we
Yes,
go. That sounds so
respectful.
fancy.
I am into paying homage.
It's a scary episode.
It's a really scary episode. I mean, Bob, you're saying that it stands up as one of the 2 to 3 of the season. I would say, wouldn't it have a pretty high ranking in the show overall? I mean, it's a creepy ass episode.
It's very creepy, and again, Jerry and I could wax poetic on Kim for hours. He just made the most of everything, and Serge lit it really well. I mean, there was a lot to the lighting, especially in the orchard. It was just beautiful to look at, and every angle was scary. I mean, he was just a master at that. And like I said, last time we were talking about Kim, you basically cut what he gives you. He doesn't.
Right? Yeah, he's camera cutting for you, so to speak.
Yeah. So his episodes were generally the short time in the editing room. But this one, I think he just nailed it. It was just scary from the jump.
Agreed. Now, you mentioned that he was the master of that. You used that phrase. But, I mean, X-Files, other things he'd done weren't necessarily horror per se. I mean, when you use that term, talking about his cinematic abilities in this instance, did he have deep roots in the horror genre?
Not that I know of. I think he's just, he would shoot what the script demanded. I mean, he had done so many hours, so many shooting things. He'd seen a lot of directors come and go in his time before he even started directing. You learn from others' mistakes. But he just had a natural aptitude to, as a shooter. He was probably less concerned, or we never got notes from Kim about the script. He really shot what we gave him. So we didn't go through a lot of notes with him about the text. he was more concerned about the shooting and letting the actors do their thing. That was just him. I think I'd pay a little more attention to the text than he did. I don't think I would have shot Scarecrow as well as he did. So we all have our strengths, and his was putting it alive on camera. I mean, every episode he did. We talked about it last time with Dead in the Water. For me, I said that's the way the show should look.
Right.
Right.
And that's also, by the way, an incredibly scary episode of television.
It is. Yeah. Just hold that thought. We're coming right back. Thanks for listening, everybody. And now back to the episode.
I mean, really creepy.
Part of what was scary about this episode was the Scarecrow itself. Great costume. Who gets into the process of designing the creature and the costume? Would that be something that happens in the writer's room, or is that?
No, that's an art venue. I think Robert Leader, my now art director, and at that time was our set designer and illustrator. I think Robert, he did a lot of the creatures and different specialty things that we did. Because Robert's a very good illustrator.
It's funny. The head looks like it was like imagined in the drawing. You mean with the sunken eyes and
for sure.
Yeah, and Robert's a pretty sick guy, so
he's an unstable man.
Matter of course, that's like a Tuesday.
That helps.
When we first saw it, I mean, it was beyond our expectation. When you're down south and you're kind of worried, is this thing going to work? And then when we saw it, everybody was just, wow, that's great.
It was also kind of fortuitous because we found an orchard with a lot of dead trees. These were it was a hazelnut orchard and it had gone bad. And so we have these wonderful sculptural elements that are dead. But you backlight that stuff and it just looks so creepy. Yeah, that was a huge thing. And it's funny because Kim was almost like a parlor game, Bob. When Kim would come onto the set, like the first scout, he goes, I'm going to do a 40 here and then I'm going to be doing an over and call out every single lens between him and, like Serge and stuff. It was almost like a parlor game. Another thing that was you had to be careful with, and I didn't learn this till about the third episode with Kim, is whatever you showed him, he expected that to be the best thing, and he was just going to go ahead and figure out his blocking. I mean, he did it instantly. He would stand in a room, and he never wanted to be in a band scouting. He wanted to get and do his homework on his shot list. So I remember this one episode, and we looked at this one apartment, and he was staying there. I said, okay, Kim, now we're going to go to the next location. And he goes, what? We don't have any more locations. I said, well, no, it's another version of this. He goes, oh, no, I got this blocked already. No, we don't. I'm not going to start over.
And that bites you in the keister because if you were waiting for the big surprise to be the last place is phenomenal.
It's funny because there's certain directors, never Bob, but a couple of directors, not to name names, but if you showed them a location, okay, it was immediately, well, what else you got? That's a thing that goes back, like when I worked in LA a lot. It was almost a game. You had three choices usually. You started off with the worst one and you worked up, and then finally you expect the big bang and they go, oh yeah, this is great. But we didn't do that. We didn't do it after season one. We just pre-scouted. We sent the pictures down to the directors, and we really very seldom did we scout more than 2 days on any episode with the director. So that meant everybody got a chance to prep. We committed to something. And again, that was a big part of the success of every episode, between Bob ushering and making sure that we got the scripts in a timely manner. And then the communication between us and down south about what we were going to shoot. And then by the time the directors got up, they had seen the files, they knew kind of what we're up to, and then we were off to the races.
Now, as you guys know, we like to bring the audience up to speed with some TV and film terminology
right
as we're going through this. So I want to pause and talk about scouting, because I don't think everybody knows what that is. So Jerry, from your perspective, discuss that, and Bob as well, from a director's standpoint. What is scouting and what is its value, and what ends up happening in that process?
When you read a script, you have something in mind, what you want to look like. Something that I do with the script is I run a movie in my head, and it's the best movie physically that it can be, with a great location, the place that's lightable, and so forth and so on. Then you go out in the van and you're looking for that sort of perfect location that's in your head. When you're shooting 8 days, that's not always doable. One of the great things that Jerry would do, which made life easy for all the directors, I think, Jerry would show you stuff and he would say, I mean, he would help you schedule. He would say, you can shoot this in the morning and then just go around the corner here. And then we can do the diner scene here. And then around the corner, we have this alley that'll work really well for the such and such scene. So Jerry would help you map out your days. At that point, as a director, you're saying to yourself, well, what's important to me? What can I give up? But what's the most important thing? And Jerry always would somehow know what the most important thing was, where I would spend most of my time, what was the hardest thing to shoot, and to try to make it doable. So sometimes you would say, well, this is not the greatest apartment in the world, but this is not the most important scene in the world. And I'm going to do 3 shots in here and get the hell out. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I think some directors get sort of hung up that it has to be perfect, and then they don't make their schedule because, they pick something where now you got to make the whole company has to move, kill hours doing that. Anyway, the scouts on Supernatural, to get back to what scouting is you go in a van, you're with your AD, you're with Jerry, you're with other people initially, and you try. Jerry says 2 days would be probably the average. That's about right. And those are even more in full days. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jerry, but we would also do work in the office. And, for me, I mean, I did the same thing that Kim did, right? I would get into a location and I would block it. And if I couldn't block it, if it didn't work for me in the script, then I would have to say to Jerry, this is really not working. Let's come up with something else. That rarely happened because Jerry has a great sense of how to shoot something. But being able to block it on day one in your head is a great advantage, So the scouts on Supernatural were like the best scouts I've ever had, and that's really because of Jerry, because he did so much scut work before I or any other director got there.
Right, because there's so much that goes into it. You have a vision of what you want it to look like, and then with Jerry has to find those locations. It also has to work with scheduling certain actors on certain days.
Yeah, there's so much that you don't even think about when you're just acting in the show, right, or doing something else that Jerry, I got schooled on quickly, mainly by Jerry when I started directing, because Jerry was the boots on the ground guy, finding all these things. And, I remember him calling and I know you probably want a busy street, but let's not do this on a busy street. Let's build ourselves a busy street, because that way we can be out of the grid and we'll have, longer hours to work on this location. And there's so many things you just don't think about.
Right.
You need direction. You need somebody who understands. And the time, which you don't think about if you're a viewer of a show. You don't think about, I bet that house was around the corner from that house, But Of course, in order to make a feature film in 8 days, that all has to play into it.
Right.
And that's got to make your job really challenging, Jerry, because you're finding quote unquote perfect, but also logistically feasible.
Yeah. What works.
I was scared every day, but at some point it happens. But really the first, 6 years or so, when we had so many locations, because, we had no men of letters, we had no standing sets. Once in a while we went into Bobby's, but so now we're really running and gunning.
So this felt like it was all locations, except for the cellar. Was this an all location
shoot? You remember
shoot?
that in Scarecrow? It felt like a lot of locations.
Well, we built the motel.
Right, sure.
And then, I don't know, because, at that time, it was literally a sprint. I mean, every day was the same, because we usually, thanks to Bob, we usually had 3 scripts. So, the one you're shooting and the one you're prepping and then the one you're thinking about, they're all laid out. I don't remember freaking out over Scarecrow, although I was pretty much freaking out over every one of them, because had I realized the show I was agreeing to, I don't know if I would have done it.
Right.
I was hired, and then I found out there was no standing sets, and these guys were on the road. I'm going like, oh.
What do you remember where the Scarecrow was? That outdoor area?
Yeah, no, that was outside of Fort Langley in this hazelnut orchard.
Wow.
Yeah. And we had looked at a lot of places, and all of a sudden that one was basically dead. There was some blight or something going through there. Anyways, it was perfect. We just walked through there and went, wow, that's, and then it was foggy. that night. I remember people having a hard time getting home from that night's shooting because the fog came in so heavy. And I remember Kim shouting, because I wasn't on set that much, but I usually open the set to make sure everybody's happy. And then, you know me, Bob, I'm there right till the end. You know, Bob used to give me relentless shit about like, oh yeah, you good now? Okay. Yeah, I'll be here till about 4. I said, yeah, Bob, well, I won't.
I go,
But,
where are you having dinner tonight, Jerry?
Yeah, exactly. And I would say Nook, and then he go, you bastard.
So now you guys ended up with, actor-wise, cameo-wise, you got a pretty cool cameo out of The Smoking Man, William B. David, who was a big deal on X-Files at the time. Is that a Kim Manners favor phone call? How does that play out?
Well, sure, I'm sure it was. You know, although Eric was up on all that stuff as well. I mean, you know, he was an X-Files guy, and I'm sure The Smoking Man was probably Kim with Eric's blessing. But was this Nicki's first episode?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's where we meet Meg.
Right. Kim really wanted her. He knew her from X-Files. Yeah. And this is who he wanted. He was digging his heels in on that. Not that anybody had a big objection to her, but Kim was really at the forefront of hiring her. And she was perfect, you know. I mean, she was just this little itty bit of a thing with a pixie haircut. She could play evil. She could play sexy. You know, she was terrific.
Yeah, she seems kind of fearless. She's great.
Yeah, she's a great actress. And when you guys brought her in, was the intention we're going to use this character again?
Well, a lot of that depended on with any character how they did. Did they score
Right.
in the episode? You know, if you had someone who say, "Oh, that didn't work,"
I'm flop sweating that's actually what it is.
Yeah.
yeah, you find your way to, you know, not do it again. Yeah, Nicki's case, and we talked about the last time. You know, a lot of people that came in that were basically one-offs. We said, "Oh, this character really works. We're going to write towards this." Certainly, Nicki qualified in that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she was great. I at the end of the episode, I remember thinking like, she's coming back.
No, she's really good actress in everything she does.
I think Kim tried to bring her up almost every episode he did. You know, I mean, he really had a thing for Nicki. I mean, and again, she was excellent.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we're watching episodes 1 through 11 at this point. Episode to episode, the guest stars are super strong. And I don't care if it's somebody who comes in and says one line. Like, and this is American casting and Canadian casting. You guys really had a great track record with your casting success, man. Because that's not always the case. You know, sometimes something slips through the cracks and you end up having to work around it or whatever. And maybe that did happen. And just as a viewer, I'm not seeing it. But as a guy watching the show, basically for the first time, everybody's swinging for the fences in the guest star department.
I think some of that was luck. Some of that was Heike, who was our casting person in Canada. Heike's unflappable. So you could go to a casting session and you go, no, I think we missed there, Heike. What I really want is a Jerry Wanek type or something.
Right.
And, you know, a day later, she'd find that person. So she was great to work with.
And then Bob said, "What are you doing here?"
Jerry.
That's actually how Jerry got his job.
Yeah, listen, I wanted a Jerry Wanek type. By the way, how many times in Hollywood have we heard, "Get me a Jerry Wanek type"? I mean, it's just
if I had a nickel,
the battle cry.
Yeah.
One other thing about Kim, by the way, I was going to say this earlier. Kim was, as Jerry was saying, Kim wanted to, you know, get his locations out of the way early so he could do his homework. Two things that always happened with Kim. Whenever we did a rewrite and sent it up, invariably Kim would look at the rewrite and say, "Oh, now you guys are killing me. I got to do my homework all over again." I mean, you know, he wanted it to be from the first draft. That was it. And the other thing he would always complain about was, "This is the toughest episode you ever given me. How am I gonna? This episode is God. You guys are killing me." And there was one episode I go, "Jerry, I mean Kim, it's a 3-hander for 12 pages." And it's a 2-hander for 20 pages. How can this in an apartment? How can this be the toughest episode you've ever done?
Now people are listening to this going, "It was a character with 3 hands."
Yeah, I remember the 3-hand episode.
Yeah, that means 3 characters in one scene and then 2 characters in another scene.
He's a 2-hander.
Exactly. Well, you know, I mean, I think he may have just been built to react adversely to the
Everything.
first blush of a script and then settle into it, right? I mean, that was part of his ritual.
I think a bigger part of it was, there was always a very healthy competition between all the directors, really. I mean, everybody wanted to do the best episode. So you can't do the best episode unless it was the hardest script you ever got. So, I'd walk back there and, Cyrus was a producer at the time. And between the two of them, they were just, oh, did you see this? Oh, did you, they go back and forth. And I had the same reaction as Bobby because I remember when he did the Shadow episode, that was a tough one. He had to figure that out. That took a lot of work. But then the very next episode was a piece of cake. And that's when you told them, like, Kim, really? But the Shadow episode, that's the one that went so far as like Cyrus wanted to dress monkeys up and have
go on
and mimic the moves of the character so we could see the shadow on the wall of the monkeys while we shot the other.
Oh my God.
Oh no, it made no sense. But
man, I would love to have been in the room when somebody Cyrus raises a hand. I have a thought.
Oh,
monkeys, go with me
Go
here.
with me here.
Yeah. Well, that was every concept meeting, every production meeting. There was.
He's passed away, right?
Yes.
When did he pass away?
At least 6-7 years ago.
I only know that because somebody we were interviewing at some point said Cyrus, may he rest in peace. I didn't know.
Oh yeah. It was
Ivan Hayden.
Ivan, yeah.
Yeah.
Bob, in the first season, it's all Monsters of the Week, right? Is there at the beginning of the season, are people throwing out different monsters? Like, how about Scarecrow? Ooh, Scarecrow, that's good. That goes on the whiteboard.
Cookie Monster.
Right. Ooh, okay, I like it. Whole Muppet thing. Is it like that, or did Kripke go, this is what I want, or like how collaborative was that?
Early on, Eric had, like Hookman, not one of my favorite episodes, but Eric had what he used to call Googleable villains, Googleable monsters. And I remember thinking at the time, I said, we're going to run out of Googleable monsters pretty quick.
The Google monster is going to destroy our show.
I wish I had a time machine. I could go back to different moments when Bob was in the room to see Bob's reaction to things. You know what I mean? Like Bob's reaction to that statement. Like,
Googleable.
I'm going to run out of...
Oh, there were some good ones.
You guys know me. I hold my tongue.
Right.
No, not known for that.
But, the Scarecrow thing, I forget who came up with it, but, that was one of those ones you go, well, if we could pull this off, that could really be great. And then the story that got built around that of this town sort of worshiping this thing, was kind of a classic horror trope, so that all, that worked great. A lot of people would come up with stuff and, a lot of it got rejected. But one thing we were always telling the writers is, don't take rejection and go off into your room and sulk. Just think of something else.
Right. Yeah. And so many of the writers were with the show for a long time. When did Andrew Dabb start? Was he there at this point or no?
Andrew came in with a partner, I think maybe in season 3.
Okay.
Yeah, because I remember they killed me in season 5. I recall that. He wrote.
Oh, he killed you?
Dabb wrote one of the episodes.
I was just clarifying that Andrew Dabb, who we're talking about, became the showrunner in the last 5 years.
Right. Yeah. So you being in the writer room, Bob, the whole through line of Jensen or Dean and pie.
Yeah.
His love of pie, which became a bit of a fan trope and a fan favorite thing, characterization of him. This is its debut, it seems, in this episode. He goes into a restaurant, he orders a piece of pie. How runners are made, is that just sort of happenstance and then later on somebody else brings it back and then next thing you know it's got legs? Or was that sort of in his character Bible? It's like Dean, daddy issues, resents his brother, loves pie,
And long walks on the beach.
Pie was not in his Bible, no. No, somebody, whoever wrote this one, said, we'll have meeting pie, right? And Jensen pulls that stuff off so well, we say, okay, that'll become a bit of a runner. Anytime they're eating, Jensen, do you want any, you got any pie? And it lasted for pretty much the entire run of the show.
He does do that.
Jensen
really well.
Eating, by the way, he would go out to stuff with gusto. A lot of actors don't want to do eating scenes. Ed O'Neill, who I worked with a number of times, was great at taking the fork to his mouth and not quite getting it in before he said his line. So It looked like he was eating, but it really wasn't. Jensen would actually eat. And I used to I always did one more take than was necessary. Just 'cause I just wanted to have him take another bite of that hamburger.
Well, I mean, he cursed himself because for those who don't know, a scene's not done in one take. You're talking about multiple takes, which means multiple bites of that burger or pie or chocolate bar or whatever. And so a lot of times...
And you got to match it,
Yeah, the veteran actor might decide to pull the Ed O'Neill.
Right.
Or you have, Dean Winchester and Tony Soprano who are both plowing through their entrees in the middle of the scene.
But it looks good. It looks real.
Good. But I got to keep the prop team on their heels,
Well, fortunately,
we always had plenty of food there. Robin never ran out. Always had an extra hamburger.
Well, fortunately, Jensen has the body of a god, and so it didn't really take much of an effect on him.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, that's something I always notice when people are actually not eating in a scene, and also when there's no coffee in the coffee cup. That's a real pet peeve of mine. Swinging that coffee cup around like there's no liquid in there.
Well, there's something about when people have to drink or something. When you guys as actors would know, there's probably a way to hold the damn thing, and act it like there is something in there.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're just picking it up, if you jerk a coffee cup up and no coffee comes out,
Yeah.
If you're using it like a pointer, listen, you
got to give it some weight.
It's not sloshing about. Yeah, no, I know. And look, Jensen committed to those bits, maybe to his own personal detriment, but for great entertainment on the show.
Well, that's what was so great about him. Was like he's this badass character, but then he can soften so easily. In
Loves
certain
pie.
things.
Yeah. A lot of brother in the story of this one. A lot of brother conflict. You know what I mean? In a cool way, because Dad starts off the episode, and we're talking a lot about the Scarecrow, but the other storyline is they part ways, right? And then it's knowing your brother so well that his silence tells you more than anything he could actually would say. You know what I mean? When Sam can't get him on the phone, that's all he needs to hear to know that something's up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a cool bit of discovery of the characters in this episode as well.
Yep.
Kind of I know you love the brother conflict. I think it was a cool nuance element, right?
Yeah.
And how much was that, Bob, being again, writer's question, how much of that was, I know you guys were planting the issues between the boys and the relationship with Dad, but in this episode, we get their complete departure from each other. We get an apology. There's a lot of shoe leather in this about the boys' relationship, as well as Monster of the Week. How detailed was the arc of the boys as it ran through the season? Like how specific? Like, did you know by episode 5 they need to fight? By episode 12 they need to make up? Like that kind of stuff.
We didn't plan it out to the nth degree. I remember in this episode, we just sort of said, it would be good to split them up. It would be good for them to have a disagreement and split up. Frankly, part of that is how much they had to work when they were together all the time, and we didn't spend a lot of time with the monsters outside of when they were being confronted or the guys were nearby. So in the first season, they were really, they were working an awful lot.
Right.
So breaking them up in this one gave them a chance to have
A day off.
And it's a good dramatic thing. What's the classic love story? Boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl back.
Yeah.
It was that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and also that was great to see too. I mean, to see Sam have his own little thing with
100%.
Meg, and then find out she's like a demon or something.
Yeah, and it was a great way to introduce a villain.
Yeah.
Yeah, very.
Well, listen, we're going to let you guys go so that we can save some stuff and have you back on again.
Yeah, this is
Talk some more.
not the last time. Sorry, guys.
But-
not the last time.
But you are both all-stars, and we're big fans, and we love you coming on and talking about the show.
Yeah, thank you so much for your insights, guys. Really appreciate it.
This is Jensen, stopping in to say hey and let you know that we've got to take a quick break. I'm about to pop. Hey, guess what? We're back.
Gosh, I love those guys.
Yeah, me too. Me too. They're great, and we'll definitely, they have to be recurring characters on this podcast because they have a wealth of stories and information.
At the end, they're like, oh, we should grab a beer. Man, wouldn't you love to be at that beer?
Well, you know what's funny
Just to
is
listen to
as
that.
Bob starts to say, I just have to say, it's just, I know this is this audio only, but it's so nice to see my old pal Jerry Wanek. I thought he was going to go, all you guys. It's great to see all your faces. He's like,
But he's already seen our faces. In Bob's defense.
I know. I just want to be that's my way of saying I want to be invited to that.
I want to be on Bob's cool list, right?
I want to be invited to that beer.
Me too.
Well, listen, let's get into the mythology. Mythology. The pagan legends of this episode are like some of the elements of American Gods by Neil Gaiman. Kripke has mentioned he's a big fan of American Gods and Gaiman's work.
Which, by the way, is a fantastic book and
show.
You will see, and show, and also the themes of American Gods show up in Supernatural many more times.
Yeah. Or how about this one, Rich?
In Norse mythology, the Vanir are one of two groups of gods. The better known are the Aesir, which includes Odin, Loki, and Thor.
Oh.
Big fan of that Loki myself.
Yeah.
The Vanir are tied to fertility, sexuality, and Sam shirtless in bed.
I'm listening.
Go ahead. Also prosperity, and also Dean cocking a gun.
Okay, that's not in there. Fun facts. The Professor Dean Meets is played by William B. David, who played the iconic Smoking Man in The X-Files.
That's right. We talked about that in the interview.
That's right.
Is a good get for a cameo.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first appearance of Meg, a fan favorite character played by Nicki Aycox, played brilliantly by Nicki Aycox. However, and here's a spoiler.
We're going to see a lot of Meg, and there's actress is going to change who plays her. And
Thanks a lot.
Someone we know plays later Meg. Whatever.
Great.
We'll find out.
Name of the town this episode takes place in is Burkittsville, Indiana. If you look closely, you will notice that Dean's phone has the first names of people from the art department in it.
Oh, interesting.
Jerry Wanek, Robert Leader, other people.
Mm-hmm. That's the person's name?
Other people.
Wow.
Author, it's O with an umlaut.
Uh-huh.
T-E-R,
Okay.
it's Nordic. Author.
P. Dot.
Yeah.
Ol.
Paul. Yeah. P-Paul.
And this episode is the first time the title actually appears on screen. Oh, the title of the episode.
Oh, okay. And that's the thing they did from here on
Later,
out.
yeah.
Oh, cool.
Well, thanks everybody for listening.
We really appreciate it. We're thrilled to bring back two fan faves and to talk about a great episode of television, a great episode of Supernatural. Subscribe, won't you?
Please.
Join us for every week.
Just subscribe. Just make that commitment.
Just do it. You've been dancing around it for weeks. Honestly, at this point, it's embarrassing. Everybody's talking about it. Just commit.
We're popping the question. All you have to do is say yes. What? Is that not?
I love it.
This episode stars Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester and Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester.
Guest stars were Jeffrey Dean Morgan as John Winchester, Nicki Aycox as Meg Masters, William B. David as the local professor.
Co-stars included Tanya Salinier as Emily, Tom Butler as Harley Jorgensen, and P. Lynn Johnson as Stacy Jorgensen.
Scarecrow was written by John Scheiban, story by Patrick Sean Smith, directed by the legendary Kim Manners.
Editing by David Ekstrom, music by Jay Gruska.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of the episode featured music from Coal Pits, Creedence Clearwater Revival, and Bad Company.
The episode first aired January 10, 2006.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher, and edited and associate produced by Trey Booty. What's up, Booty?
Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios and Fartoon Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
For news on this and other podcasts, please follow Story Mill Media on Instagram and on Twitter. One, two, three, and four, and
So this is intros and outros for 111. No shit. Dean and a local girl, Emily, get captured and are ready to be sacrificed, but Sam arrives.
I don't know if they're ready to be sacrificed.
No, they're not.
They're probably opposed to the idea, I guess.
Try that again.
Name the town. Wait, that's not what it says.
That.
Is that three things?
Huh? No, that was 4. And now we got a 5th.
No, but is it steady cam shot of what?
Of Dean cocking the gun.
Oh, so it's that's not 3 things.
No.
That's Dean cocking a gun.
Right.
Okay. Now I thought you meant Dean, a rooster and a gun.
Please cut that out. Put it in the bloopers if you must. You're such a jerk. I'm trying to be honest here. These are my honest reactions.
Good to see you,
great. So
Bob.
get it.
Good to see you, Jerry.
Okay.
You look great.
No, we don't know. Not in this show.
And you know what? Our producer Steve sent us a link today. Like, he said, if you want to know more about Meg, click this link. And I clicked on it, and it gave me the spoilers. I didn't want to know.
I didn't click on it. I'm not. I don't need the clickbait, Steve.
I'm not going to tell you what I saw, but I saw some stuff, man. I saw some stuff.
Story Mill Media.